right, so welcome back. Kind of left you hanging there with finishing the interest rate and accumulate interest. So let's just go ahead and show you the solution to that, and then we'll tell you a little bit about the exercise we're going to have you do. So hopefully you're able to get those added. Essentially what you had to do is to the constructor, you had to also pass on an interest rate. You had to save off that instance variable. And then I chose to be a little sneaky, and I said that if it doesn't exist, set it to 0. This is the same kind of syntax you've seen on the namespacing. This is just a trick you can use with JavaScript that basically is an OR operator. And so if it doesn't exist at all, if it's undefined, it will just give you the second one. So it'll set it to 0. It's a little shortcut there. My guess is if you actually implemented that, you did it with an if statement. So like if undefined, or just if not interest rate, then interest rate equals 0. That, or you just forgot that was one of the requests to do. That's probably the most likely thing. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to update the toString to also print out what the interest rate is. I chose, in my examples, if you looked at it closely, to multiply it by 100 and then add the percent as the units, so you knew what the units were. It was as a percentage. And then my accumulate interest, I chose to do it in a crazy shorthand, right? It's really balance equals balance plus balance times interest rate. But you could actually use 1 plus the interest rate and multiply balance by that. And you can do that all with the times equals shorthand. So I suppose I ought to see if this works. So I refresh my page over here, and you can see that what I've got is my toString changed on everybody. Bob and Dave defaulted to an interest rate of 0. And then Matt, he got his successful interest rates. Just to kind of play around with it a little bit, if you wanted to do some more stuff, one thing I'll mention about objects in JavaScript is there's really nothing protected about them. So if I wanted to, I could just say interest rate on Dave. Let's just give him a really good interest rate. And then if I printed out Dave, I'll just kind of grab one of his toStrings here. And in fact, I could even accumulate interest on him at this point. So I've got to say Dave, accumulate interest, and Dave toString. It's like my naming conventions changed in there. So now if I run it with this change, you should see it prints out everything just like it did before. Dave had a 0% interest up there. But you can quite happily change Dave to have an interest rate, and you could accumulate interest on him. If you wanted, you could also like accumulate interest on him before making that addition. You know, you can play around to your heart's content. And that should simply have no increase, right? So you can say I accumulated interest, but really nothing changed. And then once I had an interest rate and accumulated interest, then I actually saw a benefit. So that's kind of our basic introduction to objects. There's no need to submit this URL. I'm going to have you submit it as soon as you finish the exercise. So let's talk about what the exercise is. The exercise is that I'm going to have you make another class kind of from scratch, just to kind of practice what you've learned so far, just to make sure these things are clear, called baby. So there's a little introduction to the baby class here in a doc. Much like the bank account, there's no UI for this. It's all just console messages. But what I want you to do is I want you to create another class called baby. So there's some requirements here that has a constructor and 2 methods. So the constructor should take the name of the baby. And then the 2 methods are feed the baby or hour passes. Just to make this one kind of simple, instead of having a toString, so don't make a toString, just have the methods write to the console log directly. So you can read all the details in here, but essentially the constructor, it should write, you know, hello baby, and then the baby's name, whatever was passed in the constructor. If you call feed baby, it says thank you for feeding baby, you know, whatever the baby's name is. And then depending on the situation, when you call hour passes the first time, it'll say the baby's sleeping. The second time, it'll say the baby's awake and ready to be fed. And then if you call hour passes a third time without feeding the baby, it'll say baby is crying uncontrollably, feed the baby, right? So you can kind of see, here's the example code that I want you to run. So Keegan, Bowen, McKinley, these are my kids, right? They're going to go through different cycles of hour passing and feeding them, kind of in a crazy situation. And then the output will just be this massive list of console messages, right? And so your console messages should look exactly like what it says in the lab. Once you're done with the lab, I'm going to have you still go ahead and submit the URLs to both the bank account and the baby, assuming you're taking this class for a grade. and there's instructions for what those URLs should be right here, and a place for you to submit them. Note that you don't have links on your home page to them, so deploy your app and then just navigate just by typing in the path to where it should be, and then it'll work even though there's no link to it. And then just copy that link into the submission area here. All right, that's it for the basic introductions to objects via bank account and then the baby class. Finish up the little exercise, should not take long, and then I'll see you next time. All right.